Now, in the Senate, 5 Republicans voted no. Senator Shelby, Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Grassley, Senator Lee, and Senator Rand Paul. And in the House, 151 GOP members bucked their party's leadership and voted against what amounts to a tax hike on 77% of American households. Now, among those who voted no on the House side are my next guests, Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz and Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert. Gentlemen, welcome back to Hannity.
Thanks. Always good to be with you, Sean.
All right, my first question, Congressman Gohmert, is very simple. How is it possible that we got to this point, final hour, all the drama? How is it possible and no spending cuts? None. Zero. CBO estimate, $4 trillion price tag.
Well, it's because the promise that was made by Minority Leader John Boehner 2.5 years ago that we would follow regular order if we were given the majority, that we would not bring a bill to the floor that had not gone through committee, been amended, been debated, gone to the floor, been amended, been debated, and then sent to the Senate, and then if it didn't match ours, it would go to conference. We didn't do that process, and as a result, we got a deal that ended up not cutting any money. We're still going to spend over $1 trillion. And when we spend $1 trillion over what we're bringing in, that's being lumped on for our children. I got 2 days to see all 3 of my daughters this year. And I look in their faces and I just think, until we get this right, we are failing the future generations. This is abysmal. We should be making the cuts instead of engorging this generation with money we don't have.
You know, Congressman Chaffetz, I look at this and I'm thinking to myself, the president is really good at politics. He was to really shift the narrative away from government selfishly, recklessly spending too much and turn it into a debate on, well, the small amount of income, and it's relatively small, by raising tax rates. And now he says he wants another bite of the apple, so this doesn't stop. The question is, how do Republicans, why won't Republicans just stand up, look at the American people in the eye, and say, we're not going to rob from your kids anymore. We're the party of balanced budgets and fiscal responsibility. That seems like a strong argument to me, that you'll save America from bankruptcy.
You would think it would be simple. Fiscal discipline, limited government, accountability, a strong national defense. That's what we should be fighting for, and that's what we should be standing up for. What this president says and what he does are 2 different things. He said he wanted a balanced approach. There's nothing balanced about this. He said he wanted deficit reduction. It didn't reduce the deficit at all. He keeps saying these things, but nobody holds him accountable. And I'm proud of my colleagues who voted no. I understand why some of them voted yes. But at the end of the day, we have to cut spending. If you spend $1 million a day, every day, it would take you 3,000 years to get to $1 trillion. We're spending more than $10 billion a day. We have to borrow $600 million a day just to pay for the interest on our national debt. We can't do it. You have to look, Sean, at the first-year cut number. I don't want to hear about 10-year projections. I want to hear about first-year cut numbers. That's what we should be held accountable for.
But if you want to look at those numbers, Congressman Chaffetz, you have Moody's now saying that this deal will cost 600,000 American jobs. The CBO says $4 trillion price tag over a decade. So there are no spending cuts in here. I guess the question is, over the debt ceiling, we're going to now have another big argument over spending, whether there'll be entitlement cuts. It seems that there's got to be a shift in strategy, that we need a party that is going to stand on this platform to save America. Do you think, Congress, do you think that that can happen, will happen, that the messaging will change?
Well, I know it can happen. Yeah.
Go ahead, Louie.
I know it will happen. We took a pledge 2 years ago that if you will give us the majority, we will cut at least $100 billion in the first year, and we will return to pre-bailout, pre-stimulus levels, which was the 2008 fiscal year. So we made that pledge. We ran on that. We have been, by the grace of God and the people of America, we've got the majority again in the House. We haven't done it for the last 2 years, but I'm hoping and praying that we will finally be true to our word.
All right, Congressman Chaffetz, there's been a lot of rumors about perhaps tomorrow when there'll be a vote for Speaker. Is there any question in your mind as to whether or not John Boehner remains a Speaker of the House?
No, there's no doubt in my mind. Really, the choice is between John Boehner and Nancy Pelosi. So that's a non-starter. That's an obvious one for me.
But it would only take 17 votes to stop whoever becomes Speaker needs a full majority. So Nancy Pelosi only has 200. There are 233 Republicans. So if 17 of them say no, then you keep voting until that person gets a majority. You don't believe that'll happen at all?
No, look, our fight is against the Democrats. I want to make sure that we understand and we stay focused on the fact that since the fiscal year started for the federal government, we are already $300 billion in the red since October 1st. And so I realize that there's some infighting and we have got to be focused on cutting spending and cutting first-year spending. I was the primary sponsor of Cut, Cap, and Balance. We got to cut $100 billion in the first year, drive spending to less than 20% of GDP, and then pass a balanced budget amendment. Until we get a balanced budget amendment out there, Sean, I don't think that the Congress has the discipline to do this.
Interestingly, Congressman Gohmert, the President says, look, I'm not done raising taxes. Now I'm going after the loopholes for the rich. So we see the direction he's going in, which is not, again, dealing with spending.
That's right. He's never done anything but spend more money and want to raise people's taxes. And boy, people are going to find out now, because this deal's been done. There were some good things in it, but people are going to find out now when their taxes go up, wow, I didn't know that was in Obamacare. I thought it was going to help me. There are some things that are going to happen this year that are going to shock people, because they're going to find out that President Obama has not been truthful in his representations. They're going to get hammered this year.
All right, it's going to be interesting. I will say this, though, gentlemen, and you two are not the problem, but it seems to me that America, when interest rates go up, when inflation kicks in, which I think is inevitable, that there has got to be a better messaging. And I think the message is simple. We're the party that is not going to rob from your children. And I think if you hold to that message, that is a winning message for the American people. The latest Rasmussen poll says they want to cut spending. Be the party to cut spending. And I think you'll be successful politically, and it'll be good for the country.
Sean,
absolutely.
I would ask that anybody that believes in the power of prayer be praying. We have a fresh start tomorrow, and I hope and pray that's what we will have. Through
prayer and fasting, we're going to get politicians to stop their addiction to spending money to accumulate power. That's a big prayer, Louie.
Balanced budget amendment. We got to have a balanced budget amendment.
All right, guys, we are going to stay on the case because we owe it to our kids, not to bankrupt them.
We do.
When we come back.